Yeah, maybe, but the racket will talk.
Welcome to episode 4 of the Racket Will Talk podcast. I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Sam.
Today we're going to talk, same as before, about the last 2 weeks of tennis. A really good few weeks, actually, in my opinion. Some pretty great matches in there. And a few other topics as well that we think are worth mentioning. We'll start with... What do you want to do? Men's or women's first?
Let's start with men's, I think, because we'll have way more to say about the women.
We'll start with the men, get them out the way. I mean, it's not just because they're men. Like, they had smaller tournaments.
Yes.
So we'll start with the men 2 weeks ago, where they played Delray Beach, Marseille, and Buenos Aires. We'll start with Delray Beach. Why not? What happened there?
Well, the main event for me, Davidovich Fokina, who made, actually, I think it was his, third or something career final, probably not that many more than that. It was his first in quite a while, and he was in a winning position in quite a few times in that match, in that first set, and he blew them away. You could say that was predictable to an extent. He's honestly he has come to be known for this kind of mental letdown, you could say.
You can say the C word.
Yeah, he's a choker. Yeah, he hit an underhand serve against Rune at Wimbledon, and it's never been the same. Actually, he was a choker before.
No, he was bad before. Yeah, because he also had that match at Wimbledon where he was 2 sets to love up against Hurkacz, and he hit a tweener, I think, on his first match point, or an underarm serve, one of them, like one of the 2 silly shots. He had 40 love, and then Hurkacz came back, won 2 sets, and then they had to play to a 5th. He managed to win it at the end, but yeah, he's a choker combined with bizarre decision making in those late moments.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we have multiple examples, it kind of says a lot now. And I mean, he lost to Kekmanovic, who can play well. Actually, he tends to like this stretch of the season usually.
Yeah, he's an honorary American. I think I don't know if he's lived there for a while, but I feel like he's kind of one of those kind of slightly American non-Americans. He'll always opt to play the American tournaments. The
best probably tennis he's played ever for now was in 2022 in the Sunshine Double, which is right around the corner. So I guess that adds up for him.
And he made the final of Delray Beach, or one of those similar American tournaments, a couple of years ago, where he lost to Taylor Fritz.
So, I mean, but that was an entertaining match, I suppose. If you don't mind the suffering of it all. I actually really like Davidovich Fokina, so I do feel for him in those moments especially, but still a good week for him. He beat Taylor Fritz, which was I think a really impressive win, and a few others as well. He had a strong run. Probably should have taken it all the way. He has a decently high ceiling when he's really on. Lots of options, really, really athletic. But yeah, something.
Third fastest player on tour.
Yeah, for sure, top 5. But yeah, between the years, still quite a complex character, and so he didn't go his way. That's fine.
Yeah, he his first career final was that Monte Carlo final, which is pretty wild for a man to have your first final being a 1000, where he beat Djokovic in that tournament as well. Kecmanovic's second career title, he did play well. I thought that final was actually a really, really excellent match. And in fairness to Davidovich Fokina, the match point rally was a really long, athletic, pretty hard-hitting rally where Davidovich Fokina just hit I think it was a forehand down the line, just wide. And he looked quite exhausted by that point as well. And then kind of Kecmanovic not ran away with it, but it didn't really look like Davidovich Fokina was going to come away from that point. But it was a high quality match, and it was intense, and it was good rallies. They were both members of the 2019 Next Gen Finals, which is an interesting class because I think it's something like 6 of the players who played that finals have made finals already this year. So it's Jannik was in that cohort, Davidovich Fokina, Kecmanovic, Casper Ruud.
Who else in that? Tiafoe?
Alex de Minaur, Francis Tiafoe, and Ugo Humbert as well.
Right, yeah. So all of them except for...
Yeah, and I think it's Mikael Ymer.
Okay, so all of them except for Ymer and Tiafoe.
And Tiafoe made finals, yeah. And I think five of them had made finals the last 2 weeks. de Minaur, Humbert, yeah. I always was quite high on this group, but they're having a bit, well, not having a moment, but they're quite good as they go. I mention this only because it's probably, aside from the Davidovich-Fokina choke, the most interesting thing that happened in Delray Beach. Like, we talked about the guy in the car 2 weeks ago, and aside from that, it's not really for me. So that's I think that's about that. Good for Kecmanovic, second career title, as I think I said. Yeah. He also won the doubles that week as well. So, I don't know what he was on, but yeah.
He was, Krejcikova mode.
Yeah, exactly. They're kind of, I feel like they're similar players. I don't know why. I don't know. I see that kind of player comparison there, honestly, watching them. They both have, yeah, well, they both got the ability to like redirect without you really knowing where the ball's going. Mm-hmm. Difficult to read shots. Where else did the men also played in Marseille that week, where Hugo Humbert won his like 50th career title or something like that. What is it?
I think it's 7 or 8.
Okay, I'm gonna check.
He's quite good at like converting good weeks of forms into title runs, and he's gotten like really strong in France for some reason. In France, indoors. That's probably his favorite condition by far now, which fits his playstyle, of course. But also, he's really like embraced the like crowd advantage, which I don't think he used to as much before. He's like way more hyped, and that gives him, I think, a good boost in those conditions.
7 career titles, you were right. I think his only two final losses, one of them was to Fils and one of them was to Zverev in that Paris final, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct, I think, yeah.
I think he was defending champion here, so defending those points, doing what needs to be done. Bit of a strange character in terms of... You're right, and I think he has a high ceiling, or when he's playing well, he can beat almost anyone. He used to have that outrageous record where he was better against the top 10 than he was against outside the top 10 on ATP. I think that was an accurate stat from 3 years ago or something. It no longer holds, but he has a good number of wins against those guys. But I don't know, he's sort of just missing deep runs elsewhere. Like, he can win titles with his eyes closed. Where's the other good results? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he had like a rough... I think it was in 2023 where he, I think, like kind of really struggled for a while. Maybe he was injured for some of it.
But he definitely went back down to playing challengers.
Yeah, that did happen. And last year he was back to his best, basically doing the same things. But that same thing keeps it in around the top 20, which I think is quite good for him.
Yeah, I think because of the fact that he wins a lot of small titles but doesn't really make deep runs elsewhere, he's always ranked higher than I expect. So you see him going into a Grand Slam, he's like the 19th seed. And you think, like, if you're not a hardcore fan watching the Marseille tournaments in mid-February, you wonder how he's ranked there. He beat Medvedev in the final, who's doing well, actually. He chose to skip the Australian Open to play some smaller tournaments in Europe. Pretty good start to the season, and he beat Medvedev, who's still in I don't know what he's doing.
It's really rough. At this stage, it's like your game malfunctioning to the point where you like can't make slam finals anymore is one thing, but to the point that you just can't like string together 4 wins in a row like anywhere against like any type of competition. I do think it's really alarming. He obviously went to press a few times in Marseille, and he speaks in French, which is kind of fun. And basically he was like, I think I can still like go back and fight a good level. I just don't know when. And actually he didn't even say that when he lost. He said that like at the beginning of the tournament. So I don't think there's like that much confidence. It's like, well, I think it will happen at some point. But he feels like it could take a while, so probably like something he needs to like rebuild or something, probably the serve mainly.
It's a weird kind of statement from him because he's not one of those guys who, I'll just keep hitting, and at some point I'll find my spot. He always comes across as really calculated. His tennis is calculated, the way he's designed his game is calculated. So it doesn't feel like if I keep going at some point it will click into gear. He's not really one of those guys. It feels like someone who actively has to work on things in order to get to level and play the right level of tennis that he's expecting. So I find that to be a weird response from him, but I don't know, we'll see. It's so weird because he could fall off and never be the same again, and I wouldn't be surprised, and he could suddenly go, at some point have a good result and then be back to being a top 4 player in the world. I really wouldn't be surprised either way. He's not old, but he's not young. He's, what is he, 29? Maybe 28.
Yeah, around that. He's like late 20s.
Yeah, he probably should be around his peak right now. I don't know. Like we said, I think last time, really weird career. The way he came up was weird. The way he's won his titles is weird. Anyway, yeah, that's I think that for Marseille. They also played in Buenos Aires. That was a 250 event, probably the most exciting of the men's tournaments that week, because it was won by the teenage Brazilian João Fonseca. I'm not doing the full accent. I'm sorry.
The baby goat.
The baby goat, maybe. Well, not if Boris Becker has anything to do with it. He beat Francisco Cerundolo, the home favourite, in the final. Just a quick thing. I mean, Kecmanovic obviously saved match points in his final. Fonseca also saved match points earlier on in the week against one of the other 7 Argentinians he played. But huge week for him, obviously, getting that first title. His trajectory still looking quite similar to the Alcaraz trajectory at the end of 22 and 23. No, end of 21, early 22. Yeah, sorry. What did you see of that, if anything? What did you think?
I watched quite a bit of mainly Fonseca that week. He felt like he was the main attraction. He was the player I wanted to watch most, and so that's what I did. Mainly, I think what's worth pointing out is the fact that for like the rest of the year, until he lost in like the Australian Open, he and even in the next gen finals, he won like really easily, like a bunch of matches, like in really like dominant fashion. That wasn't the case in Buenos Aires. So it was a lot more about figuring out difficult moments, playing, getting himself back into matches in like difficult spots, or even recovering for his own lapses, his own mental lapses. A few of them happened, and he always just figured it out. Found really good tennis at like the very end, just when he needed it, and obviously that's also really important, and he'll rely on that for quite a while, I think.
Yeah, he's great at that, and that always is motivating when you watch a player who can do that, because you just think it's like Coco or Alcaraz, a lot of these players, and you think like when they get into those situations, how they manage to get out, and at such a young age to be able to do that, it's pretty impressive. And like winning your first title that way, excellent week for him. We've spoken about his game, how he hits one of the biggest forehands I have seen, I think. That shot.
Some people are saying it could be the biggest of all time, which I think is interesting.
He's still got some like filling out to do. If he wants to get bigger, he's still quite a skinny guy. I know that's not actually usually where the power comes from in tennis. It's a lot more about, you think about Jannik Sinner, one of the most powerful players there is. But he has room to grow and get a bit stronger as well. So yeah, and I really like the way he plays those moments. He had a slightly controversial MTO at some point. Was that in the semi-final where he just failed? I think he just failed to serve out something. This is now 2 weeks ago. So, and he had an MTO and then came back and was doing well. But I think you said it at some point that like people often take MTOs and then come out after them feeling better, and everyone's outraged by it. But like it's kind of what the point of that is. You're getting treatment from a doctor. You should hope that people feel better. Yeah,
I didn't think much of it. Generally, I don't think much of those things.
No, me neither.
Great week for him. Well, he didn't quite deliver the week that followed. I think we'll come on to mention that, but that's at this stage in his career, I don't think that's like a huge issue.
I mean, turning around from that to then play in your home city, not even his home country. He is a Carioca. He's from Rio, and it's a 500, so it's theoretically a tougher field and a bigger tournament. It was always a big ask, and he did make some comments about how that was pretty stressful, being the sort of having the spotlight on him like that after almost a come down from that victory. By the way, Do you know what racket he plays with?
Yes, it's a Yonex racket.
It is a Yonex. So, yeah, the theory continues. So that was the first week of the men. Let's go to the WTA 2 weeks ago. What happened there?
As we covered like the first like 2 days of it in Doha.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of the same in many ways, because one thing we pointed out was the number of like upsets that you had for the top players in the first few days. That very much did not stop that week. I think the main storyline is obviously the winner, Amanda Anisimova, who took her first 1,000 title. How many career titles does she have?
I think that's her third or fourth. I think it's her third.
She hadn't won one in like, I think, a really long time.
It might have been since that pre-Australian Open one she won in 2022.
Right, yes. 3 years ago, yes, that's quite a long time. And she played really well. I will say, when you look at the opponents, it's like a solid run. But given the field in Doha, I also think she, didn't quite meet some of the headliners.
It was that classic thing of like, all of them were losable matches, but not any of them was like a huge upset or anything. So she played Azarenka, Badosa, Leylah Fernandez, Marta Kostic, Ekaterina Alexandrova, and then Ostapenko in the final. So like, on a good week, those are all players that Anisimova could beat. The highest ranked one was Badosa. The only one to take a set off her was Kostic. But you're right, like, none of the big favourites, a lot of them lost too early.
Indeed. And the one who didn't lose that early was Iga Świątek, but she did in fact lose before the final. Quite badly, I'll say. It's interesting, really, because you would think she could figure this Ostapenko matchup out at some point, but also they don't meet very much. So every time it's like, oh, you don't have like much data as far as like recent matchups between these two. They played in 23 at the US Open, and even that was like a 3-setter. So you could at least expect that to be like at least a close match, especially given how dominant Świątek had been in Doha. But no, it wasn't that at all. I think the first set was really mainly about Ostapenko being really quite incredible, super intense. The first like 10 points of the match were like really hilarious. I think 8 of them were like Ostapenko winners. I don't even think I'm exaggerating. That's how she started the match, and obviously that can be quite disturbing. But actually, watching the match, I didn't think Świątek was like that bothered early on. She was pretty even keeled, which I felt like was a decent sign. But in the second set, you really saw just how much of that is all in her head, really, because Ostapenko actually fell off in some ways in the second set, but she still won it 6-1 because Świątek was just not there at all mentally. There was one game where Ostapenko served like 3 or 4 double faults and she let her hold. Like she was kind of just done after the first set, and yeah, it's one of those things. It's actually really rare for such a elite player to struggle this much against someone, especially someone who is week in, week out, not quite in the same league.
Yeah, I tweeted that I've never seen an all-time great with a kryptonite as kind of potent as Ostapenko is to Iga. She's now 5-0 in the head-to-head. If you hadn't already heard, I'm sure you're aware. Halfway to adoption. She's the only, it must be active player who's played her twice and who has a winning head-to-head against her. That's for Iga. So she is the superior player in most matchups, Iga, mostly because of her consistent excellence. But this, yeah, I really have never seen, I couldn't think of anyone as good as Iga who had a player like Ostapenko who is that much less good than her on average, who has such a winning head-to-head, who has such an ability to repeatably beat her. As is obviously pointed out, these are kind of skewed because Ostapenko stays floating in that kind of seeded type area, top 30. So she never faces Iga really, really early, not recently at least, really, really early. If Ostapenko's playing badly, she usually loses quite early. If she's playing well, then she can kind of just tear through loads of people. And I think that way she plays, on top of the scar tissue of the head-to-head, I think the way she plays really bothers Iga. I think it kind of is quite demoralising for any player, but especially someone like Iga who's used to being in control, to have an opponent who can just... It almost doesn't feel like the points before matter to Ostapenko. She doesn't seem to get affected by what has gone before. So she hits a double fault, and then you think, okay, maybe I have a chance here. She's going to be a bit shaky, and then it's just eyes closed, blasting a winner past Iga the next point. So I think the fact that she can't ever wrestle control in that matchup bothers her. And you can imagine, I mean, this is maybe a bit parasocial, but you can imagine how even their personalities off court would be kind of friction-y with each other. Like, I think Iga really, really likes the control and likes to know likes to have things planned. She likes everything to be quite measured and precise. And I think Ostapenko is a bit like erratic, is fair to say. So it's amusing to see that kind of come to life. But that was the semi-final matchup. And as you said, like, really that second set was a mental thing. And it would be interesting to see going forward, if they do face again, what that looks like from a mental perspective.
Yeah, and she just looks lost when they play. And also, I think it's interesting because it's a mental thing on both sides. So on one side, you have Swiatek, who obviously is flustered and can't seem to figure it out, which obviously is frustrating. But also, on the other side, Ostapenko gets up for it to like an insane extent. She always, at this stage, she plays super well. Against her, like especially well. She also played very well the match before, as if she had to make sure she would get to that match. And then in the final, not quite that like at all.
Yeah,
it's a different matchup, but also
she says my job here is done.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
She does have an issue of her own in those 1000 finals, I believe. Right, I don't know how many she's lost, but she's never won a 1000.
Yeah, and like the difference in serving between how she showed up against like Swiatek and Jabber even, as opposed to what she did against Anisimova, it's like that's not even the same player. Like, what are you doing?
It happens. It's that, there's a kind of meme that says like, this was their Super Bowl. Sometimes when like a shit team beats someone else, like Everton drew with Liverpool, and everyone's like, that was their Super Bowl. Iga matches are Ostapenko's Super Bowl. She does not give a crap what happens afterwards. She's like, I just have to win this. I got to maintain that head-to-head. I think she almost believes like, if I can beat Iga, that kind of means I can claim I'm the best player in the world, maybe. If I could beat her in Doha, it's like it's not the same, obviously, but it's almost like how Kyrgios would always really try when he's playing like Nadal. There's that thing of like, I could live with myself and the success I get from, by proxy, being one of the best players in the world because I can beat the best players in the world. I don't think it mentally comes from the same place because they don't have the same mentality at all. But it feels in a way like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big part of Ostapenko feeling like, because of the way she plays, if I play well, I can beat anyone.
Which she says a lot as well.
She's very aware of that. She will let you know, I only played at 60% or something, which is probably a fair assessment of her performance in the final, I guess. No, but yeah. Oh, and also, quick shout out to what I felt like was the match of the week. Maybe you could say it was actually Sabalenka against Alexandrova, but I would give it to Swiatek against Noskova in the third round. Really, really tough. Really, like, intense. I think 6-4 in the third. Noskova shows up big time against Swiatek as well. Like, also served incredibly well. Stayed there, like, basically until the very end. No, actually it was 7-5, I think, in the third. Yeah, really enthralling watch. I really liked it. And a good, like, actually really good fighting display from Swiatek again, which obviously didn't carry that on in the semis. But
I think it's interesting because that comparison, if it were Ostapenko on the other side of the net, and if Iga had decided that someone like Ostapenko always beats me, you could have imagined that was a different performance fighting wise. But it's almost like She doesn't have that scar tissue against Noskova. She knows she can beat her. She beat her once, right, Noskova?
Yeah, at the Australian Open. Yeah, and then they had like a bunch of close matches.
The thing about, I think Noskova's super impressive because that level that she can sustain, you kind of expect it to go away at some point, especially when you're playing someone as good as Iga. But the fact that she can keep it up, and Iga actually has to beat her by outplaying her rather than kind of weathering the storm and knowing that it will go away, like it usually does with a lot of players, and there's loads of players on the WTA that can hit well, that can hit hard and kind of blow you off the court, but it's rare that it stays for 3 sets like it does with Noskova. I mean, I found a tweet where I wrote, I don't see that much potential in Noskova, and I'm really annoyed about that because I don't know what I was talking about. Like, she is really good. And I think I've made a prediction. I think she'll finish the year top 10, if not top 15, but great player. Interesting thing about the final matchup, I know we talked about Ostapenko kind of pigeonizing Iga. She played Anisimova, who sort of, to some extent, owns Sabalenka. She's got that great head-to-head against her and beat her most recently as well in... I know she lost in Australia, yeah, but she beat her in that Canada match. She likes that matchup, basically. And it's, I don't know, kind of amusing that those are probably maybe the 2 worst matchups for the number 1 and number 2 players. I don't know what you would think about whether Sabalenka has a worse one. Who isn't an elite player in their own right.
Oh, no. I mean, it's definitely worse for Swiatek.
Yeah.
And because Sabalenka and Anisimova, I mean, they played twice last year and it went 1-1, so...
But Anisimova's beaten her lots of times before. Yeah,
she has, but also Sabalenka wasn't the Sabalenka we have on tour today.
Yeah, but you could also say that loss that Anisimova took to Sabalenka was like her right on her return. I still like the matchup for Anisimova.
I mean, it is. I mean, she's one of the few players who feels like she can still beat Sabalenka even if Sabalenka is playing well, basically.
Could you think of someone who is a harder matchup for Sabalenka who isn't like one of the best players in the world?
Yeah, no, I mean, she's probably, the worst matchup. I mean, she used to have like something with Vekic as well.
Yeah, that head-to-head's still huge, but I think the last few times she's kind of beaten her nicely. Maybe it was only once. Oh, no, actually, she does have a bad matchup with Vekic, who beat her in Dubai last year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, maybe it is Vekic. Yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, word on Anisimova, like, I know, well, people who listened to the last episode will have heard my live reaction to finding out that she beat Badosa. I love her. I think she's just a beautiful game. Like, yeah, very simple in that she doesn't have tools. She definitely doesn't have tools, but she has gorgeous ground strokes and a very reliable and beautiful backhand. And her movement in Dubai, I mean, I've never seen her run like that. Maybe in that Wimbledon match she beat Goff in, but apart from that, she was moving. I think she's serious.
It's, in many ways, it's been a long time coming, but I guess it also was surprising to an extent. She returned to the tour last summer, I want to say, and she actually did she?
Not last summer. It must have been at the beginning of the year. I think it was.
Really? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Well, because she played at the Australian Open against Sabalenka.
Right, yes. But yeah, she took a long break before that for a mental health break. And I mean, upon her return, she played fine, she was around the 30, 35 range in the ranking, I would say.
Made that final in Canada.
In Canada, right, yes, that was the big breakthrough from last year. And this time around, she finished the job, I guess. No, but really talented player, of course, someone who, I mean, we've been aware of her for really, really long time. I mean, you can argue her breakthrough slam was the same as Ash Barty's. That's kind of right to think about now.
I think Barty was kind of present in the Australian Opens.
Yes.
At least because of she was an Australian. But yeah, for sure, their first big results were the same ones. It's a good point.
And even Vondrousova as well, so it's,
yeah.
That's kind of puts it in perspective. And she was 16 or 17 or something at the time.
She was 17. Yeah, she was 17.
Yes, so we've been aware of her as this big talent for so long, but a lot has happened in her personal life, in even her career. She's had lots of injuries as well, and her father unfortunately passed away, which took a huge toll, understandably. And then she had this mental health break from the tour, which seemed to do her good. And finally, she's here, and obviously, yeah, she lost in Dubai. It will be interesting to see if that really means anything more than maybe the Canada run, or if it's the start of something new. Obviously, she'll be hoping for that. I think it's possible that it's also unlocked something to an extent. But either way, it's just a really great moment for her. Something she's been, I would say, well deserving, which of course hard to quantify, but I feel that way. I think lots of people feel that way, justifiably. So exciting result, and yeah, happy for her.
Yeah, well, very, very well deserving in that it's nice to see someone with that talent who had quite a bit of success early on find the ultimate success. She has been through a lot, yeah, as you said. Actually, I mentioned in the last episode that Simona Halep lost to someone surprising in her defence of her Roland Garros title. It was, in fact, Anisimova, which I somehow forgot. But yes, of course, that was that 2019 Roland Garros. And she's now made her top 20 debut, which is kind of always shocking that she hadn't been in the top 20 before. It'd been kind of cusp 21, and then she'd had some break for some reason, or she'd been around that spot and then had an injury or a run of tough results. I think, as much as I never expect her to be like a really consistent top 5 player, I don't think that's necessarily her mentality, and like completely understandable, and I don't think it's really even her game either. I do think a lot of it is up to her how well she does, because as we know, there's loads of points where she could improve. Her movement leaves quite a lot to be desired, and she is not a good volleyer or doesn't have really good touch at all. So it's pretty much just the ground strokes right now. Her serve isn't very good either for someone of her height. So I think it's in her own hands, I think, whether she wants to become a consistent elite player or whether she's happy with like weeks like this. I mean, she's still only 23, so yeah, lot of time to do what she wants with her career. And yeah, I just love her, really. I'm really happy for her. I'm sort of torn on who I think has the best backhand on tour, but I think hers is more reliable than we think of it as being.
It's up there, It's really phenomenal, and kind of goes Ostapenko fits in some ways. Which it's interesting, I guess Ostapenko also doesn't really like playing people who play like her.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Anisimova is that she's a bit of a redirect merchant. Like, she's not quite Bencic levels, but she likes power and pace, and she's got quite short like backswings on her shots, so she doesn't need a lot of time on the ball, and she's quite able to absorb that pace and place it back to you, which is, I think, one thing that made Sabalenka struggle with her. Maybe something that Ostapenko doesn't like, because you think, I'm hitting the ball really hard at you, why is it coming back, feeling no effect? It's kind of what we talked about with Rybakina. I'm very happy with this week, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great moment for her, and I think I'll still be on the lookout to see what she does next. And then I think we can move on from there. Do we do Rio now?
It's up to you, boys or girls.
Actually, I think I want to cover Dubai, because it feels like a continuation, the same story, kind of.
It's almost like a 2-week 1,000, but people get points halfway through. I don't know, there's something about it that feels like it's all the same thing, kind of in the same place, So yeah, Dubai, go ahead.
In many ways, you saw a lot of the patterns from the week before holds, with, again, Goff and Sabalenka losing early, Goff losing to Kessler in the second round.
Great player.
We'll
talk about her.
We will. But yeah, she beat Goff. I watched a bit of it, actually. Not good from Goff. Yeah, kind of back to her worst, unfortunately, where none of it feels comfortable at all. Serve, forehand, none of it really coming off. Lots of mistakes. Yeah, it's once again, kind of a tough scene for her, which obviously we know she can turn that around. She's done it many times, as early as the end of last year. But that's also, proof that when it comes to like technical issues, if the shots look the same, or if it's like pretty similar, there is no like guarantee that because it worked really well for like a few tournaments or a few weeks, that's going to be the case like forever. That's still something to work on and to try to get better at, I guess. And as for Sabalenka, I mean, she lost to Towson quite badly, actually. Towson was really excellent, playing so well. We'll talk about her again, of course. And Sabalenka did mention afterwards that she didn't have much drive and hunger around this time of the year, which you can understand. She really wanted that Australian Open repeat, of course. And generally speaking, that's just not a tournament she likes at all, Dubai. She kind of always struggles. She did say that she wanted to be in peak form for Indian Wells and Miami, so we'll see what happens there.
This is what I think about these Dubai and Doha tournaments, and maybe it's because I personally don't feel that they have that much individual character to them, that I think players obviously still want to win them, and if you're an Anisimova or an Ostapenko, and that's one of the biggest titles of your career, they're going to go really hard for them. And if you can win them with your eyes closed, like Iga can, you'll go quite hard for them. But I think that there's a bit of a gap there where those elite players who still have to pick up their level for the biggest tournaments find it difficult to find that level within them, the level that they'd bring to Indian Wells or Rome and Madrid or any of the slams. If you were a top player and you were compiling the list of all the tournaments you dreamed to win, Dubai and Doha probably wouldn't be that far up in terms of the big tournaments. So it's kind of understandable that if you're someone like Goff or Sabalenka who are a bit susceptible to upsets and the draw's so stacked and it's back-to-back weeks, not surprising. I mean, some people straight up miss them. Naomi isn't playing, Madison Keys isn't playing. Like, they aren't the biggest, most prestigious 1,000 tournaments. So it kind of does leave that gulf, if you will, for either a consistent player like Iga or up-and-comer, or the winner of Dubai, who I don't think we've mentioned yet, was Andreeva. 17-year-old Mirra Andreeva.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll call her an up-and-comer much longer, if we can still do that like at all. She was really excellent. I actually think she's really the standout of this whole swing in a way. I mean, yeah, we don't have to compare, but this run is really quite incredible in many ways. Only drop one set to Rybakina, who was actually playing quite well. Beat Swiatek in straight sets, really quite straightforwardly as well, and just looks so good, like all the way through. So far, at least for me, it felt like Big Power was kind of an answer she couldn't solve. Lost quite a few matches to both Rybakina and Sabalenka. And you obviously it wasn't like, oh, she'll never figure it out, it's a huge issue. She's like, okay, she's 16, whatever. She's going to lose to Sabalenka, that's fine. A big part of that for me, at least, from what I could see, was the serve. It didn't seem really reliable, didn't even seem all that strong, really. But this week in Dubai, in some moments, it was actually really huge against Swiatek. She was hitting upwards of like 190 kilometers an hour, which is huge. I don't think Sabalenka hits that even that often, for instance,
Well, not this year.
even generally speaking, So pretty, and she was making a lot of them and to like accurate targets. So hugely impressive on that front, and also even off the ground, it really held the ground against Rybakina and Swiatek. Just redirected super well, always seemed to know where the ball was going, great anticipation, which is something people mention a lot, and she really delivered in so many ways. And you knew this was going to happen, but for me, and I guess for most people, I wasn't quite expecting that level just yet.
I can't relate. So Mirra Andreeva, to Andreeva so far. Beat Avanesian, Vondrousova, Peyton Stearns, Iga, Rybakina and Towson. Same as Anisimova, only one set dropped on the way. I mean, she's extraordinary. I always thought she was really good when I saw her. I saw, like, basically quite an understated way of playing. I mean, she's not the Noskova who came out, you know, as a teenager hitting huge. She doesn't have necessarily, like, incredible craft and touch, like a Muchova or Vondrousova or Andreeva, that kind of thing. So I think sometimes it was hard for people to see where all this talent was. I think she's crafted her game in the way that I think is probably the most efficient way to craft a game if you're not superhumanly athletic and if you're not blessed with outrageous racket talent like a Bencic or a Anisimova. She learned how to move the ball around and place it like it's on a string, and then she started building up her power. So when she arrived on tour, it was lovely shots that were kind of close to the baseline, nice depth, close to the sidelines, good placement on all this stuff, great returner. And now she's growing up because she's still a teenager, she's already quite tall, and she's beefing up all those shots. And if you are someone who can put the ball wherever you want, and it's going quite quick when you do that, I mean, it's just a great game plan. Great returner, and always has been, and the serve is getting better, as Sam said. She's a pretty good spot server. Her mentality sometimes comes under question. She can get quite kind of emotional on court, perhaps puts a lot of pressure on herself, but at the same time, the ability to fight is really good. I mean, she's a great competitor, and we saw that against Rybakina. I think just an extraordinary player, and the numbers and the stats are looking pretty good for her. I mean, she might be another Nicole Vidasova, but looking like a pretty good career for Andreeva. She's got Conchita Martinez as a coach, which, like, I really like, and a lot of people have commented on how that's nice for a teenager to have female coach, and they seem to get on really well as well for, you know, but for what that dynamic is. I mean, Mirra kind of teases her nicely, and yeah, it's overall a good setup, and what a player. I thought this was a really good week of tennis, actually. She beat Clara Towson in the final, who was also pretty extraordinary. What do you want to say on her? I know you're a big fan.
I'm a big Towson enthusiast. I actually don't know when that really started. I think I just been following her for quite a few years. She really broke through in a way in 2021 when she won a few titles when she was 19 or something. But so I could see this really great tennis from her and just great talent in so many ways. But she really had a really long stretch where it was not happening at all. She kept getting injured, kept coming back injured again, couldn't build on anything really. And finally it seems to be coming together this year, which is really exciting. Really just so happy for her. I do hope it will she'll keep going, she'll stay healthy. That's mainly what I'm hoping for. And yeah, I mean, this week she had obviously the huge upset against Sabalenka, and she kept delivering,
which is it's a hard thing to do. That
absolutely, yes.
Win after the big win.
Mm-hmm. And she had this amazing match against Muchova. I love this match. It's probably my favorite match I've seen this year. Actually, the latter matches in Australian Open probably on that level for me. For sure, I love this match. I thought it was so good from both. And actually, I said it at the time, it was also kind of bittersweet because you just knew, knowing their profile, knowing how injury prone both of them are, you just know playing that in the semifinals in basically at night, having a final the next day against a really good opponent, you just knew they were also kind of taking each other out of contention for the title, which is very much what happened.
Both of them being not super experienced players. If that were an Iga or a Rybakina or someone like that, you'd think they're used to doing these backups. But for both of them, that would have been a really big match. For Towson, it's the biggest match of her career. So, yeah. And it's a side effect of these 1 week 1000s, which I know we really like, but you can have that.
Yes, and I mean, just so good to watch. I second and first set especially, just so high. Such a high level from both. Mukova hit the shot of the year for sure.
Yeah, of course. She always does.
And then she lost like all the games after that, but she
I think Mukova should have won that match. The whole week she wasn't playing that well, but she kind of wrestled momentum after not starting the match great. She wrestled the momentum from Towson in the third and got an early break and then just gifted it right back. And then was always putting pressure on, but I think kept leaving the door just a little bit too far open for a person of Towson's caliber who didn't win this tournament, but excellent season so far, because we neglect to mention, well, haven't mentioned yet, the only player to beat Madison Keys this year. She did that in that first tournament. And she was the hardest match for Sabalenka in Australian Open as well. So it's not even a red hot run just now. And I think she lost. She lost to Yastremska in Linz.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, so it's taken good performances by good players to beat her, plus some excellent wins in her own right. I mean, her net play in that match against Mukova was outrageous. Like, I swear to God, she was not missing any volleys. I didn't realise that she had this in her. Like, I've watched her a lot, and I know she's a really great ball striker. I remember being, like, really impressed by her in that match against Kontaveit at the Australian Open. But I didn't know she had that. This crazy net play. I mean, that great match, as you said. Yeah, really good match. Mukova's another one we can talk about because interesting week for her, especially since we've both predicted her to get nearly 10 career titles. She played as we kind of touched upon, McCartney Kessler, who is apparently the best player ever. Did you watch that match?
I watched a bunch of it, yes, and I mean she played well. She made it really difficult for Mukova. She took her to, I mean, her limits basically, and Mukova really showed up at the very end.
She scammed
when
it,
she had to win it. She was able to.
Listen, guys, seriously. McCartney Kessler is the real deal. I swear to God, that was a crazy high level. And I kept thinking, she has to miss. And you could tell that Mukova was feeling that as well. She was feeling the high level. And I observe that I think Mukova plays better when the level is better. She likes being in those points that you have to earn. And McCartney Kessler was outrageous. She was outrageous. Like, she looked like one of the best players ever. And she's like 25. I don't know where she's been. But I would keep an eye on her. I don't think I really, now she's going to lose like 18 matches in a row or something. But I think she's legit. But that was pretty much, I think, my tennis highlight from that week. I think a lot of players playing good tennis. It's kind of nice to see. I think, like you said, Mukova-Towson match was great. Andreeva was excellent against Rybakina. Rybakina was quite good in that match. I saw Andreeva against Peyton Stearns and pretty much was flawless there as well. So sometimes you get those weeks where everyone just agrees to play well. And I feel like that first Doha tournament that Iga won in 2022 was that same way. I remember watching a lot of players thinking, you're playing really well. And then I watch another match and say, you're playing really well. But similar there. And I mean, tons of youngest ever type stats for Andreeva. So,
and I guess that's can be all like closing words on the whole Middle East swing. I've seen that a bit of discourse, which I do think is quite interesting, on what we had these past few weeks, basically, where the really like top players underperformed in many ways, and we had arguably surprise winners. And it's interesting on the WTA because you can be a surprise winner, but you're almost like not a shock winner either, because we just know it's probably in you somewhere. You just don't expect it to show up, basically. The 3 big tournaments we've had so far on the WTA have been won by Keys, Anisimova, and now Andreeva. And I've seen people mention like them being maybe a bit worried about the top players flopping and not going far at all. I think that's understandable to an extent. Especially because all of these narratives were building, like the Goff, Sabalenka, Swiatek, all of them playing really well. In Australia, that's kind of where we were, and that was really exciting for lots of reasons. So I sympathized with that in lots of ways. I don't think you would want the tour to basically go back to 2017, especially when we've had these really great rivalries building between generational talents. But at the same time, the Thousands and the Anisimovas of the world are also extremely talented players who can play great tennis, and at the end of the day, that's probably what we should really focus on. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's super nice to showcase them as well, because you look at these matches that these players played, and you don't think this is a bad or even mid player who's found success here. That this is like a high level tennis that a lot of them are playing, and they get to be watched by lots of people where people might otherwise not get the opportunity to watch them. So I don't really have a problem with it, and I do genuinely believe this is a quirk of this swing, these back-to-back tournaments. It's super tiring. I don't think the players, like I've mentioned before, it's not their absolute dream to win them. So if you're going to have a week where you can't quite find the motivation to be at your best, it would probably be here. And I think in some years they get away with it because there's no one else playing super high level, but there was just a number of players who showed up hungry and ready and playing a good level to defeat them. So, I mean, was it Krejcikova won Dubai?
She did not. She lost to Muguruza.
No, 2 years ago.
I'm wrong. Yeah, she did win Dubai 2 years ago.
That final, yeah. And then who won last year?
Paolini,
yeah. So, yeah, it has, even in those stronger years, and of course, Krejcikova, Paolini, not random players, but in our last few stronger years of strong rivalries between our top players, we have still had this kind of, these kind of results. And I wouldn't worry going forward. I do expect Indian Wells, Miami, the clay ones, and Roland Garros, and those to still be fought out by the ones we expect. I like a bit of variety. I think having the mix is good. You want a number of best 5 players in the world winning big tournaments, but then it's nice to have upsets or interesting matchups, I think.
Yeah. At this point, it's a bit of a cliche to talk about death to describe the WTA Tour, but I mean, there are just so many players who can play amazing tennis.
McCartney Kessler, for example.
Well, yes, but yeah, not even going that far. Just
she's got 2 career titles. She got 1 this year.
Well, more than Mukova, that's one thing she has. She didn't get the win, but she has that over her. No, but it's true, especially right now. So many of them are playing super well. So it's like, well, I mean, okay. Even Noskova, we mentioned her. She's playing easily, I think, top 20 tennis as well. And it's like,
I wonder what racket she uses.
I do.
Towson too.
But yeah, you just have 35 players playing top 20 tennis in any week. So,
I mean, I do make that joke a lot of the time when I'll say top 10 prediction or top 10 favourites to win this tournament, whatever, and they end up writing like 15 players out. It's because there's more top 10 players than there is top 10, if that makes sense. Like, the way we think of a top 10 player, there's more than just who could fit in the top 10. So yeah, I like it. I'm pretty happy with it this way, and it's high level as well. I think that's the important thing, is that if these players are playing well, sure, go ahead and win. McCartney Kessler next. She'll win Miami.
We shall see. Okay, so on to last week's section on the ATP Tour, where we had Jack Draper winning Doha.
No, he did not.
Did I make that up? Oh yeah, I did. Andrei Rublev. Whoa, wow. Okay. Won Doha, and Sebastian Baez won Rio.
Mm-hmm. I have got my notes here, and I have literally nothing written next to the Doha tournament.
I saw very little of it.
It's Rublev winning a 500. I think the most interesting parts of this are that Alcaraz lost to Jiri Lehečka. That was and obviously some Alcaraz fans started getting concerned. Djokovic lost quite handily to Matteo Berrettini in, the second round or the first round? Very early on.
His first matches.
Yeah, Matteo Berrettini was excellent, and it's the first match win he's got against Novak after how many losses, but good for him. And it would be nice to see him kind of back on top again. And then there was quite a good match in the semi-final between Felix Auger-Aliassime and Rublev. Did you watch any?
I watched like a bunch of the actually Draper-Berrettini match. I saw quite a bit of it. I saw a bit of the final as well. I saw like half of it, I would say.
But not the half where Rublev won.
Well, no, but I mean, I think for Rublev, really, it was in so many ways about finding what he can do again, which he always been kind of mentally on the rope. I think that's fair to say.
That's generous, I reckon.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And it's not like he was, super chill and everything is fine. He still had that, but even at his best, he always had that to an extent. It's about managing it and still finding a way to fight and to play good tennis, which I think he did do for the most part. He overcame a lot of long, difficult matches, and he's still fit. I never doubt Rublev's fitness, like at all.
No, yeah. I mean, can you ever remember him retiring with injury even?
Yeah, and he always plays a bunch, and that never really seems to be the issue for him, really. And so, yeah, I do think it's really encouraging for him. He hadn't won like anything in actually quite a long time, which is surprising for someone who is always really good at handling maybe a weaker field to an extent and just delivering against players he should beat. And that's not something he had been doing for quite a few months, so that's a nice return to form.
I think probably his last title was the 1000 he won.
I think so, in Madrid, yes.
Which was like he had been losing really early to random players, like a Jordan Thompson type, and then all of a sudden won Madrid, and then went back to this, which is so un-Rublev, like who you expect to do. Solid quarterfinals appearances, winning the small titles, kind of had a flip switch. Just on Rublev, I don't know if you saw the quote that he came out with, I think today. Pretty kind of concerning. He talked about not really understanding his purpose in life, and bit dark, but I don't know. I hope he's okay. Like, yeah, you should go check it out, because I can't remember exactly what it was, but he's a complicated guy, I think. You can tell that just by watching him on court. He obviously feels things a lot, and he feels pressure a lot, and he wants to be the best he can be. A bit of an insight into how he's feeling and how many of these players might feel as well sometimes. I think there can be something and almost quite difficult about being in the place of Rublev, which is consistent success. His career has historically been, but not really any growth or improvement on that. And I think that can almost become as monotonous as regular people's lives. It's obviously not the same, and he has a far better life than most people, and he's very lucky in that respect. But I could imagine how that constant level of just winning this but not winning this, having success here but not having success here, could be almost in a way draining.
Yeah, and I think it's understandable, especially for someone who just puts so much of himself in every single match, every single week, and he plays almost like I would be willing to bet that no one has played more matches in like the 2020s. Or it's not him, he's like top two. He's just played so much, and every single match feels like such an intense experience. So I can very much see how he could struggle in that way mentally. So I do hope he's feeling okay and that he'll be fine.
And I think he did have a pretty difficult kind of transition into tennis. I remember that interview he did with Sofia Tartakova when he talked about how super rich Russian guy had invested a lot into his career, and I think there was quite a lot of pressure put on him from quite an early stage. You still feel that to an extent. You still feel like this is a job. For a lot of these people who were doing it when they were young and were expected to perform, there is an element of that being, it's still a job. It's not a thing you can sack off. I mean, I don't feel bad. I don't feel super sorry for tennis players, but my point is like, different backgrounds, different histories of how they got to where they are. Good result for Jack Draper, I suppose. I think this is like his second tournament of the season. He's obviously one of the most injury-prone players on the ATP.
Yeah, I think he's still basically injured. Well, I mean, I don't think he was like injured in Doha, but he did physically wasn't able to handle that first set, basically. I think it might still be the hip thing, so something to monitor, I guess. I hope he'll be okay.
He's got those elite LTA trainers.
Oh, famous LTA trainers.
I don't know what's going on in the British tennis fitness situation, but they're not seem to do an excellent job with particularly Raducanu and Jack Draper, but maybe that's just them and their own bodies. Rio, was that 500, lovely venue. I do really like it there, and excellent crowds as ever. The big draw there was Fonseca, but as we mentioned, he lost early in that tournament. And good old reliable Sebastian Baez beat Alexandre Muller in the final. Did you catch any of this at all?
No, I'm going to be very honest. I didn't watch any of it, but we can make it work.
I have things to say. Don't worry.
Great. I mean, I do think it's really like interesting how Baez is like a top 5 player in Latin America. Like even when there are players who are better than him, every year you have a few at least who are higher ranked, who have like much better resumes. He always does so well, like performs incredibly. He defended a 500 title, even though has he even ever been a top 20 player? That's abnormal. That's not something anyone else does. Actually, it's really specific. I think he just thrives in that environment, in these like very like peculiar clay courts. He just loves it. He always does so well.
Yeah, he's like in that category of Mertens type who's got so many career titles. He has just one fewer career title than Ostapenko. He is, I think, 24, maybe 25 years old. 7 career titles from 9 finals. All but one of them are on clay. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Like, being able to... Some people are just really able to win titles. And they obviously have their preferred ones as well, and they'll thrive there. He's a really good clay player, and actually you can see sometimes in the European clay, bigger tournaments, Madrid, Rome, and Roland Garros, you can see signs of that level, but he hasn't performed at a ridiculously high level. He had that match point against Zverev at Roland Garros in 2022, I think it was, but I don't know whether he'll ever make that breakthrough or whether he will stay as this. Yeah, Baez, guess what racket he plays with?
Yonex.
Yep, it's a Yonex.
Wow.
Yeah, he beat Muller. Alexander Muller, who's already won a title this year in Hong Kong. Muller's part of the short shorts gang with Hatch and Holger Rune, so I automatically like him. And he's got a great backhand, so that's that genre of player. That's about what I have to say about Rio Open. I like the tournament, love the trophy, love the venue. I wish we could have everyone says this all the time, and I say I wish we could have a 1,000 there. I think that would be awesome. Next week, just any other comments on results previously? Or?
Oh, I mean, I guess we can mention the fact that Zverev underperformed to quite a wild extent in both Buenos Aires and Rio. Just not playing good tennis, losing to people he didn't lose to.
Was it 2 Franciscos?
Was it?
I think it was Cerundolo and then Comesana.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, I guess it's concerning for him. Well, I'm not concerned, but I guess it is concerning for him.
He saw that he's got a chance to become number 1, and he went, how about losing to Francisco Comesana? No, he was up as well in that match, I think, in the 3rd set, and Comesana had a big comeback. Some people just not made for it.
I guess not, huh? That's number one situation. It is something to keep track of, I guess, because that's going to be quite relevant in the months to come.
Precisely. Moving on to kind of what we have, some of them already started, but kind of to expect. This week, we've got the ATP 500 in Dubai. I think it's kind of an underpowered field.
Yeah, it's not very appealing, is it?
Also, I think some players have already lost. Dimonor and Rublev.
Yeah, and that's basically all you had. You have Tsitsipas, I think, as well.
Oh, maybe he could get a result.
Maybe.
Yeah, we're not like, on the edge of our seat waiting for Dubai to come on. Also, another 500 in Acapulco. This is my point. The greediness about the 2 500s at once, and the ATP players seem to prefer to play Acapulco a little bit closer to the US. And I like that tournament. I think it's fun. It's at an annoying time for me, but if I can catch some of it.
Yeah, I do like it.
And then the WTA are in Merida, also in Mexico. That's a 500, but again,
it's like
not a 500 field.
Yeah, no. It is. This one is like really egregious, I think. Like,
I don't know why doesn't Mukovic just go there?
Well, I was about to say she went to Linz, but even that I think was
way stronger. I mean, who is the top seed in Merida? Let me check, because I think it's like the players I was seeing in the draw. I was like, I don't know who you are. Okay, so the defending champion is Zeynep Sonmez. It was a 250 then, I think, or at least it was not a 500. This year... Oh, you'll never guess who the top seed is in the weekend tournament with the weekend field. If I told you it looks like a 1-2-5, who do you think would show up?
It is Emma Navarro. It is her, isn't it?
It is Emma Navarro is the top seed. Bados is there. Haddad Maia, Donna Vekic, Marta Kostic, Freck, and Sakari. Like, it's not a horrible field. It's just that if you have first round buys and you've got those non-seeded players playing in the first round, I'm then looking at the results sheet and I'm like, who is Emilia Arango, for example? I mean, I know who she is, but there are other players in that ilk. Anyway, not the strongest 500 field. Let's see what happens there. And the WTA are also in Austin, which is a 250. And notably about Austin, we are going to see Petra Kvitova return. I think the story of the week for that tournament.
For sure. It will be interesting. Honestly, I think there are lots of things going against Petra in this comeback because, well, she's both returning from pregnancy, which is notoriously difficult, and also she's not 25. That's also part of it as well. You know, I don't expect her to perform very much early on, I guess. I think, of course, we will see, and she can perform miraculously well sometimes, but so early on, I do think it will be pretty tough.
It might be a bit of a Kerber comeback where Kerber basically came back so that she could retire, in a way, I think. I mean, she was kind of close to winning the Olympic gold medal, but it wasn't a super serious comeback and it wasn't for very long. So having said that, Kvitova continues to amaze me, and I think her longevity is extraordinary and very underrated.
Okay. I have insider information. Well, it's not insider, I just checked the scores. She won her first set back, did Kvitova, which is already quite good, huh?
She was playing... And how did not know?
No, she's playing Burrage.
Okay. Okay.
Another three name. Yeah, and okay, she won the first set 6-3, and now she's down a break in the second 3-2.
But if there's something we can rely on Jodie Barrage to do, it's not win sets when she's up.
I guess we shall see.
It's a nice first match on comeback, I think, as they go. She could have had a trickier return. Anyway, I am looking forward to her because I think she's excellent to have on tour, excellent to watch. If she's anywhere near good, she doesn't even have to be consistent, but if she's anywhere near good, will be a great watch. That's about it for tournaments past and future, I think. I
don't think this will be like a super eventful week of tennis, honestly, because it seems like everyone is already looking forward to Indian Wells. So
yes. I mean, we'll see what happens, but yeah, I'm not maybe my favourite week on the calendar, but it's is it 1 week time where Indian Wells will be starting?
A bit more than that. It starts on like Wednesday.
Outside of the tournaments itself, we had quite a bit of off-court news and happenings and things like that. Where should we start? Should we start with the big story, the Jannik Sinner case? I think was probably the most notable of those.
It was at least the most talked about, whether that should be the case or not is probably up for debate. But
Nick Kyrgios, you have to quit Twitter, please.
Oh my god.
I'd probably rather have him play. I'd genuinely probably rather have him being a professional tennis player than being on Twitter.
Unfortunately, sometimes it is both. So what happened? How to sum this up? WADA and Jannik Sinner reach a deal, according to which he's going to be banned from last week until basically Rome. He'll get to play Rome, and people say, "Oh, that's awfully convenient." Yes, that's what the deal is. So that's a deal that has been reached. I do think this was surprising because, like many people, I didn't know this was an option. I didn't know this was possible, that you could have a trial not happen because an agreement was reached. Well, I guess that's something in real life justice, I guess, but I didn't know about it in the context of sport. But yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense for people to be surprised. I think everyone basically was. But there is something to be said, I do believe, about overreactions and about especially tennis players just rushing to Twitter, not bothering to read anything, not bothering to is there precedent, what's like the article of like the code, what is it, how is this possible, what happened. No, it's basically rushing to Twitter and typing out, "Oh, I don't believe in a clean sport anymore." Like, I don't think it's helpful. I think it's pretty ridiculous, honestly. Also, shout out to the Players Union, which also is moving like Nick Kyrgios, apparently.
PTPA, that is.
Yeah, yes. You know, people can feel how they want to feel. You know, I think a lot of this ultimately is still up to, do you believe the story was presented by Sinner is credible? You can believe that's not the case, and, you know, I don't have anything to say to that, that's fine. But if you are going to comment on it, I do think you owe it to people, even to your colleagues, because that's who you're talking about. That you owe them trying to be informed and trying to give an uneducated answer if you are going to give an answer, which you don't have to. But I do think that's quite frustrating, honestly. I don't know how you feel overall.
Yeah, I think what's quite telling is often that players will start their outrage thing and then be like, "Oh, I actually haven't read how this is possible. I haven't read how WADA works. I don't really know about this stuff, but this is how I feel." Okay, fine, but then you should understand if I feel a certain way about your opinion and think maybe you're not super informed. Look, I don't know about the WADA stuff. I never read those documents. I don't really care. There are plenty of other people who would hold them accountable, and they are there to perform something that I don't know better about than they do, if that makes sense. I'm never going to be in a place where I think I know better than WADA. The timing of the ban is obviously very, very, very convenient. I mean, Sinner gets to come back for Rome, which is like his home 1000. He doesn't miss any slams, but that's also the point of reaching an agreement, right? It's the idea is that it's going to be in some way beneficial for him. So I assume his team in some way pushed for this and maybe took what would be a longer ban, but in a more convenient place. I don't know. But it's not an outrageous corruption, because if there were, WADA would have accepted the original sort of CAS thing, right? And they would have said, "Oh yeah, sure, fine, well done. It was an accident. Accidents happen." But they appealed and thought, actually, he deserves a ban. And then we got to this point. So, you know, these suggestions of this outrageous corruption and preferential treatment and stuff like that. I mean, I do think if there's like an element of the system not being quite fair, I do think it is about resources, which Sinner has a lot of. And I do think his legal team was actually really smart to take the deal, because I actually read on this. WADA reached out. They reached out, not the other way around, to like Sinner's, I don't know if it was to Sinner directly or to his like legal counsel. And basically what this is about is WADA doesn't want Sinner to just walk off without like anything, because they do consider that he's partially responsible for his team's mistake, which I think makes sense. So that's what they get out of it. He gets something. There is no like precedent being set for, it doesn't matter what your team does, you know, you are not responsible. So I think that it makes sense in that way. But they do gain something from it. But on the other hand, it went to trial and Sinner got nothing, which is actually what happened the last time such a case with like Kosovo, like a similar contamination story thing.
actually the player in question got like nothing. So that's what they don't want. And Sinner had to accept having a ban, which no matter what you say is actually quite tough as far as his like reputation, as far as how people view him, as far as his like legacy. I do think that's something difficult to accept, but that's better than missing out longer, which although unlikely could still have happened. That's at the end of the day a subjective decision that would have been made by the tribunal. So I do think, obviously something was in it for both parties, hence them reaching an agreement. And at the end of the day, I don't have much else to say. I do think this is an instance of the system working, basically. I do think that it's important to discuss how it shouldn't be about how much resources you have. It's interesting, the PTPA did pledge to set something up to finance legal counsel for players in such situations, which I do think is interesting. That's what should have been in the statement.
And an excellent initiative, honestly.
Yes,
like
absolutely,
what
yes.
they should be there for.
Yes, that's the first good things I've done like forever.
No. They also pushed for like the equal prize money and stuff like that. I don't think it's the first good thing they've done.
Yeah, I'm being hyperbolic, but
fine.
That's what should have been in your statement. Not the system is so corrupt, he should be banned for like 10 years. Okay, whatever. So yeah, I do think overall the reactions were quite disappointing from players, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, what is of most interest to me is how this will affect the tour. I do think this will make the whole like sunshine swing into clay swing, early clay swing. It won't feel as relevant, unfortunately, or as exciting because
I think we're gonna have a bloodbath of Alexei Popyarins and such. Like Carlos isn't gonna sweep everything. Djokovic probably isn't gonna sweep everything, and Zverev's definitely not gonna sweep everything. So I think we're gonna have some rando, and Medvedev's not good, Tsitsipas's not good, Rublev is fine, he's there. I don't know, I think we could just have a wild ride.
And the main storyline is going to be, can Zverev Alcaraz reach number one, which is possible actually, because Sinner is missing out on 3 1,000 tournaments? No, 4, because he's missing Monte Carlo as well.
But not that many points to defend. Like, he won Miami, right?
Yes. And
maybe like a quarterfinals at Indian Wells, but that was not really where the bulk of his points are. I would not be surprised at all if he is still number one come Rome. Like, at all.
I mean, yeah, they would actually need to perform very well. It's not just like, reach a few quarterfinals and you'll be number one. No, it's actually going to take some really good performances from both, which can be difficult when something, actually, at least for Zverev. I don't think, for Alcaraz, if he plays well, he'll do well. I don't think he's that worried about, I have an opportunity to get back to number one. He just wants to do well. But for Zverev, it is actually would be quite significant, even though, there would be an asterisk on it or whatever, he would still want that on his resume, and there is a good chance he will never get there otherwise, so I guess we will see.
How many tournaments does Denis Shapovalov have to win to become number one? If he won all of the 1000s plus the 500 happening this week, was that enough?
You know what, I'm going to take this quite silly question very seriously, and I'm going to okay, so
I just think, how hilarious would it be if some rando came from nowhere, did a 2022 EGA, won everything, and then Zverev still sat there in second place.
Okay, so Shapovalov currently has 1,500 points.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Yeah, and I think Sinner will be around like 9,000 by the time Rome rolls around, so he would need to. Yeah, I don't even think, I'm not even sure he would actually get there.
No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure he'll get there. I don't think that there aren't enough points. There aren't enough points available at all, I don't think. God, Sinner's got a lot of points. Yeah. I mean, the thing about him, for me, the thing about the resources is the most important element of all this, and it trickles into, it's part of every aspect of everything you do. There were lots of conversations around COVID time about how unfair it was for certain players compared to other players, and you see the players who did well coming out of the COVID break. They were billionaire Jessica Pegula, Naomi Osaka, Serena Williams, Victoria Azarenka. Like, That's just on the women's side. Like, these things affect every aspect. Your resources situation affects every aspect of your life and of tennis, unfortunately, and that is the biggest factor that can change the outcome of your doping case. I mean, that there's an excellent podcast and a story that not a seminal piece on doping, but for me, like, a really important one, where the woman she was a cyclist and got tested positive for something, and she talks about how the financial drain that was, and like all of their life savings gone on, testing B samples and getting this tested, getting that tested. These things are not cheap. If you're a top player like Sinner, that's nothing, and you will go to any length to batch test this and batch test that and do the hair tests and provide second opinions, everything. So really, that is the biggest issue here. And yeah, like, good to hear from the PTPA. I mean,
that's not what they should have advertised. And
yes,
also,
of course.
So something more on the players' reaction I'm starting to get to a point when I feel like when they say they want consistency, I'm not even sure if they are talking about process, which is what you should have, a consistent process. I think, okay, fine. It feels like they're talking about outcome, because are you mad about the process or are you mad about the outcome? Sometimes it doesn't even feel like they realize the difference, You don't want the same outcome every time. That's not how justice works. You don't want every single contamination case to get people 3 years out. I don't think that makes sense at all. And that really should be the opposite of what they want. And yet it feels like that's what they are advocating for, kind of, which it really just doesn't feel like they think through this stuff.
No, and something we sometimes people kind of forget to mention is like, we view the players as some kind of objective source, but it's important to them. Like, they care about the guy who's winning all the stuff. They would rather there weren't a guy who's winning all the stuff. Like, if I'm a player, I'm not coming from, I just care about the health of the sport and stuff like that. They are competitive people, and they would love it if they themselves could do better. So I'm not saying they want everyone who's better than them banned or anything like that, but it's coming from an emotional place, and sometimes people treat it as though it's coming from a purely intellectual place or a purely moral place, whereas actually this affects me and my success in my sport. And I mean, Stan Wawrinka, who posted this comment about not believing in a clean sport, how many slam titles does he have? How many slam titles does Sinner have? Like, I'm not saying this is his motivating factor, but you can imagine how there is some amount of annoyance and jealousy and things like that. And people aren't robots who could view everything from a completely objective perspective. And I trust WADA to do a better job of that, and those governing bodies. You have to hope that they are to some degree doing that. I mean, I'm not saying they're perfect, because I don't believe that, but they're probably going to be better than like your peers deciding what you should get. Yeah, everyone who's Novak Djokovic, ban him for life. Why don't you take Nadal out as well? Oh, look how great I would be. Anyway, the second sort of big news story that's been ongoing for a while is the Rybakina Vukov case. We broke in some ways, I suppose, the news. We didn't break it to the people, of course, but we talked about it on the podcast, that initial statement that had been released by the WTA. I mentioned that I wanted a bit more details about the case itself, and then since then we've had the article from The Athletic, which was quite comprehensive and honestly pretty heartbreaking. Thoughts on that situation?
It's really a lot. I mean, I did mention in that initial podcast that we were bound to get more details, and we sure did in like multiple different articles. And we found out a lot of things that we suspected, that we feared in many ways, were actually very much happening. So how to even sum this up? So Vukov clearly was found to be mentally abusive towards Rybakina in really many ways, until I think it was in August or September, where we only found this out like yesterday or last week. But yeah, Rybakina's mother sent an email to Vukov asking her to stop making Rybakina cry, which is on its own, that's already quite alarming. And upon that, Vukov like refused to coach Rybakina, I think, in Cincinnati, and then they this kind of returned to action in the US. And basically, Rybakina's like close relatives wanted Vukov out at this point, and that's eventually the decision she took in New York, and he basically harassed her into having him back. That seems to be what happened. It didn't work out initially, I guess, because she did not take him back right away. She even tried another coach, as we know. But there's just so much out there, so many details about the things he would say about her, about... there is even strong suspicion from the investigation that his abuse of her even caused her to be ill so often, and that's ended up being a big part of why she missed out on so many tournaments. It's all kinds of fucked up, honestly. It is, even though we know this has happened unfortunately quite a few times in women's tennis, it is still really quite shocking. And now every time you think or look at Rybakina, you are just so worried because you know she's still in this. You know, this is still happening, probably. They are still together, even though she's not allowed on tour. They probably still communicate. They are probably dating or like together, which is also quite something. Yeah, I mean, we know a lot, and we just know how bad it's been and how bad it still is.
Yeah, I mean, the article was harrowing, to be honest. There were details about how she struggled to sleep, and I remember at Roland Garros last year, she mentioned in press how she was struggling to sleep and she was having numbers of different illnesses, sort of on and off all season, including one of them was, I think she had gastroenteritis, which is sometimes caused by stress. And at that point, I thought, this is concerning. I think struggling to sleep, that's a concern within the context of what we knew and what we observed of Rybakina's career. There was it was just after, between Cincinnati and the US Open, I think she hadn't slept for a few days, and she showed up to the US Open. That was when it pretty much kind of kicked off. Vukov was kicked off her team and suspended by the WTA, and then tracked her down in a hotel and wouldn't leave until she would talk to him. So that is harassment in its own right, on top of everything else. There are details about certain instances and a few different situations observed by other people as well. Plus the strong suspicion comment made by Portia Archer about how she believes that they are in a romantic relationship. So, I mean, all of it's just awful. The WTA has done a good thing in suspending him. It's, as we mentioned before, really hard to enforce that because they can't control what she does outside of their own tournaments, and they can't control what he does. She has since hired Davide Sanguinetti, who is supposedly in contact with Vukov, so it's still a very concerning situation. We are by no means in a place where this is solved, and as Sam says, not the first time something like this has happened. There was quite a damning interview with Barbara Schett that I just read today. I think it was maybe came out today, where she's pretty honest and upfront about what she has observed and she makes a comparison to the situation with Jelena Dokic's father and how many people around were scared of him and scared of the situation. Rybakina still claims that Vukov never abused her and that she wants him to be her coach, but as we said, this is how abuse works. Like, he's got power and control over her, and I don't think she's stupid, but it's not about that. Everyone is susceptible to this, even if you are smart and independent and you think that this could never happen to you. This is how these things work. She doesn't see it that way right now, or he convinces her that she. I mean, another thing that was alarming about that was how much he put emphasis on the fact that she would be nothing without him, and she genuinely believed that. I think she made comments about how she was worried about not being able to succeed in her career without him. He's trying to enforce a kind of codependency in a professional setting, which I'm sure leaks into their personal lives as well. So the whole thing is awful. I mean, props to the journalists who wrote about it, to the WTA who did this investigation and have taken some action on it. I just hope it gets better. It's true that every time you watch her, it can't help but think about how awful that situation is.
And I mean, there is something to be said about the fact that she can still play. You know, when you hear about players being like turmoil in their like personal lives, you kind of expect, you know, their tennis to fall apart. That's not always how it goes, and that doesn't seem to be how it's going for Rybakina. She clearly can still play good tennis, and that's what she's been doing. So it's just hard to see whether they'll both be in like a year. Ideally, she'll be gone. And
gone from everyone as well, not just her.
Yeah.
Anyone on the WTA, any coaching.
Okay, there are like two scenarios. One where they are still together and like he's still a part of a team to an extent. In that case, I do hope the ban will be like extended. If not, I do hope that they won't even have to extend it because no one will want to hire him. I think that would be... I think that's fairly realistic as well, you know. Who would want to hire this guy now? That's just terrible optics all around, terrible like work ethic, none of it. Who would want that? I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think there were some descriptions in the article about how Rybakina had become quite reserved and just keeping to herself and staying in her room, which is like a really shocking and upsetting outcome, you know, an upsetting effect of all of this. I do hope, even if he is not completely severed in terms of contact, the fact that he isn't allowed to be at the tournaments means she can get some respite from him, and any time away from that situation hopefully helps her heal in some way. And it's remarkable, honestly, how kind of strong and impressive she's been throughout all of this. I mean, how well she played last season when the illnesses are on and off, and yeah, upsetting, but hopefully moving in a positive direction. And the hard thing about this is, I mean, that article mentioned that the WTA had received complaints earlier on, and ideally you can act on those mild symptoms, those things that we as viewers can even see. I don't love the way he's talking to her, and this coach of another player notices this situation. But the problem is, with these kind of situations, you're not allowed, really, you can't ban him and enforce anything until something fairly extreme has happened. I mean, they can't say, you seem like a guy who could be dangerous, or from what we see of you, we don't like the way you coach. They're kind of, you almost can't get in and prevent it, really, with a suspension or anything like that. So it's a very hard and kind of troubling, I think, prospect, because you could tell in the WTA, in the article, that the WTA almost had to wait until they'd seen something severe enough to fully start that investigation seriously, because otherwise you come away and say, oh, we don't like him and we would prefer maybe if he wasn't coaching a player, but there's nothing that's grounds for a suspension. And I think, yeah, it's just really upsetting, the whole thing.
Yeah, and then I actually, yes, I am pretty worried for the future, because there is also this thing where Rybakina is standing, like, she's really committing to defending him and being like, you know, oh, he hasn't done anything wrong, he never abused me, and she still wants him to be on her team. When you're like, I guess, being manipulated or like in an abusive relationship, and you stand by it, walking back from that would mean accepting the fact that this happened, you know, that you basically weren't really in control of what was happening. That can be really difficult and kind of humiliating anyway. And sometimes people just remain in denial because they also wouldn't want to face that reality, that reality where you wake up and you go, oh yeah, actually this did happen, and I do need to put an end to this. That's really difficult, especially when it's been like so long.
Yeah, and I mean, like, he's been around since she was a teenager, or 20 at least, from what I can remember. So she hasn't known that much adult life outside of him. It's really hard to envision a world that isn't like that. The whole thing. I mean, I hope she gets some support, and I really hope the WTA does a good job in providing the support that she might need. Yeah. Anything else on that? If we're talking about WTA and safeguarding, we can segue nicely into more horrible stuff, which I think is worth talking about. In the Muchova-Raducanu match in Dubai just last week, there was an unfortunate situation where, I think it was 2 games in, Raducanu sort of broke down in tears and hid behind the umpire chair. I'm sure people are aware of this and have seen it, but he we later discovered that there was a man at her match who had previously, a few days before, been walking up to her and gave her a hug and made her all extremely uncomfortable. And I think he has essentially been described as a stalker, and a different one to the first one she had. So just horrible situation for Raducanu. I mean, that is frightening to happen once in your life, and it's frightening to happen again. The trauma there must be really awful, and I kind of wish the best for her as well. Again, the umpire and the WTA did a good job, I think, of getting rid of him as soon as they can, but not an easy thing, I don't think, to be a female tennis player. And
yeah, I mean, again, this is something that has happened quite a few times. Most famously, probably, one of these stalkers reaching the extreme of stabbing a competitor. Doesn't have to be that extreme for that to be a huge problem and something just so awful for this woman to go through. I mean, I'll say it tends to be like maybe a bit more focused on these like younger phenom profiles thing. I'm not sure why, honestly, but just generally just awful for, and it's not exclusive to tennis players, really. So for female celebrities, that's generally a thing, unfortunately. But it is really important for WTA to take action really swiftly and handle it, and this is what they did here. So props where they are due, and hopefully this will deter this type of people a bit more. Can only hope, and we can only hope that Raducanu will be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, just horrible for her. I think it's frightening, and to have it happen twice in different sides of the world. I don't know. I hope she's okay. I think maybe take the time off if she needs to. Yeah, pretty horrific, and she did complete that match. I thought it was, really remarkable to see. To be honest, that's the theme, isn't it? That how impressive these players can be on the court when there's so much shit going on outside. And Monica Seles always used to say that was her safe place, was the court. Sometimes they would rather just go into the tennis, and especially like the competitive tennis, where you can almost feel like you drown out the whole world around you. So not a great time. Yeah. On a lighter note, but something that still makes me quite furious, to be honest. Maybe you feel differently about this. I have been really quite angry the more and more I've heard about this. The US Open have announced a change to their mixed doubles competition. It is now, instead of taking place in the bulk regular part of the tournament, the 2 weeks that we are accustomed to, they moved it to Fan Week, which is so now not called Fan Week anymore. And it's a 2-day long fast 4 tiebreak at 4 games all, tiebreak in the third set. 16 team draw with 8 wildcards based on singles players and 8 wildcards and 8 regular entries. I mean, it's an exhibition, and I think it is I mean, maybe I sound extreme to say this. I think it's fucking disgusting that they've done this, because you are essentially removing part of a Grand Slam, a historic and prestigious part of a Grand Slam that is played by players who don't always get the limelight, don't make tons of money, and usually don't make tons of money in their careers, and you've moved it to some first week ridiculous fake scoring format exhibition catered to just the top singles players to have a piss about. And the whole thing, I don't give a shit what anyone says, the whole thing is just about making money. They care about selling more tickets, and they want to use Taylor Fritz, Jessica Pegula, Coco Gauff, maybe even Djokovic, Alcaraz, these players to sell more tickets because they're greedy. And it's completely shit on, sorry, so many swear words, but it's completely shit on mixed doubles. It's shit on the concept of a Grand Slam. I mean, this is a tournament that's been going on for however long, probably longer than any of the people involved in this decision have been alive. And you've got all these names who've won this prestigious tournament that was been a proper tennis tournament with proper tennis rules, and you're now making it into something that's just not that at all. They basically, in my eyes, they got rid of the mixed doubles tournaments and they introduced an exhibition. And I don't know. The whole thing drives me crazy. Just greed, just about making money. They want to sell more tickets and get rid of all the annoying mixed doubles players who take up time and space where they don't deserve, and they just want everything to be about the superstars, and I think it's awful. And I hope it fails, so they have to go back to the proper stuff in the future. I mean, sorry, this is a full rant now. They claim that one of the reasons why is because they wanted to fill the stands. They have this issue that you've got Sara Errani and Andreeva Vavasori playing in front of an empty crowd, but they're more than happy to play in Saudi Arabia and Dubai and I mean, there's loads of examples of places they play where the stadium's empty. It's not about fans then. When we suggest a 1,000 tournament in Rio or in Buenos Aires because there's loads of fans, they go, oh no, what about Jeddah? It's not about the fans. It's not about more people seeing tennis. It's not about showcasing how excellent it is that women and men can play the same sport. It's about making more money. It's ridiculous. Why don't you just put the price of the honey juices up? I'm sorry, I'm really, really, really angry about this. And I listened to Andy Roddick's podcast where he had the people on and it's all fake and... Sorry. I feel really angry about this. I think it's... If I were a mixed doubles player, I'd be... I don't know. Rioting.
There's like no way around it for doubles players. They are being shafted. So it's like, oh, we actually don't want you to be there, really. Honestly, we don't really care. We just to sell as many tickets of the same players as possible. And I do think very much so. It is about money. And on the whole, I don't think this was done well, like at all. And it is really striking to me how slams can really just do whatever the fuck they want. You know, like as you said, this is like a really historic tournament where mixed doubles has been a thing, pretty much exactly the same way for decades and decades, or maybe almost a century by this point. How can you just pull this out a few months before your slam? I think that's pretty egregious, first of all. I will say, the one thing I can sympathize to, or at least see a point, is that doubles and maybe specifically mixed doubles as it stands is not fully satisfactory. The question is always going to be, how do you make it a more exciting or appealing product? I do think that's a conversation worth having, and maybe changing something could help, or maybe making it more attractive for a few singles players. I think that's understandable to an extent, but doing it like this over 2 days with like 4 sets format things, I do think that's pretty ridiculous. Yeah, so I guess we'll see how all of that goes, but
for sure I absolutely agree with the doubles is sort of waning a little bit in terms of how prestigious it is, how much people care, who is committing to playing those tournaments, and that is a thing that they need to solve, but they haven't solved it. They've pretty much got rid of it and instead said we have an exhibition here. And if they wanted to have this stupid exhibition, I mean, I don't like exhibitions. If they wanted to have this stupid exhibition before the tournament and then leave the mixed doubles players to do what they wanted, then fine, I wouldn't care. Are they going to give a Grand Slam trophy to the bloody partnership of Ben Shelton and Amanda Anisimova who win the fast four doubles thing? I mean, really? Are people going to be falling on the floor on match point at 4-3 match point? Or it won't even, you're right, they needed to figure out ways to make doubles more appealing. But this is almost akin to if they said, the women aren't selling enough tickets, we're going to get rid of them, and maybe we'll make a 16 draw for the women, and it will take place, they'll play one set, and it will take place just on the Friday, something like that, and we can have more men's tennis. Because the men may have more eyeballs and they make more money, which most of the time is true. Maybe not at the US Open, but for the majority of tournaments, more people want to see Djokovic than Sabalenka. But that's not how people go forward with it. They say, let's give the women they try to give them a fair slot so people can actually watch it and realise how great it is. Let's put the mixed doubles front and centre. Maybe not fully front and centre, but find other ways to get people to watch it. Because there will be people who watch that and think that is an excellent product. There will be. People like different things. There are people who prefer women's tennis to men's tennis. There will be people who prefer mixed doubles to singles and mixed doubles to doubles. There are other ways of going about this, and such a drastic change is offensive. I've done my ranting. You're right. Things need to be improved in terms of doubles at the moment. This is not improving it, this is axing it. And it feels very F1, superstar driven, all this kind of stuff, which is, I mean, who are we? What sport are we? Why are we we shouldn't try and succeed based on celebrity and name. We should try and succeed based on product, because the product is excellent. But they're watering down the product in order to make the celebrity the important part. Anyway. On that quick note about exhibitions as a whole, we all know, if we listen to the previous podcast, that I predicted Thomas Mahac to be the highest ranked Czech at the end of the year, and I think you agreed. He is off pissing about in the UTS while Jiri Lehečka is beating Carlos Alcaraz in Dubai. So what is up with exhibitions? Get rid of them. Thomas Mahac, lock in, please. We've got things to prove. It was overall quite a slow week for tennis, and it was overall quite a fast week for other nonsense. So that's why I'm anyway. Yeah,
I mean, we had so much to cover today. I'm realizing.
Yeah, some bits might be cut out. Lucky you're not editing this one, because I think there are lots of bits that you would have cut out.
I would have kept this in for sure.
We move on to, what should we do first? Predictions?
Yeah.
We've got our predictions segment. Do you have some predictions for me? Would you like me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. I've prepared a few predictions for Sam, as we said last week, based off the previous events in the last 2 weeks of tennis. So, the first one, João Fonseca, probably a future star, Brazilian guy. No Slam champions on the ATP have been non-European since Del Potro in 2009 at the US Open. He was the last non-European to win a Slam. This fact is mentioned all the time. Obviously, a lot of that is from the big three. Trend is continuing. The best two players in the world are Spanish and Italian. I want you to tell me who will be the first non-European ATP Slam champion, and when will it happen?
Fonseca.
Above Fritz and...
No. I mean, I had to bet on, like, who do I feel more confident in, like, the ability to win a Slam, Fritz or Fonseca? I'll go Fonseca. Which maybe that's a bit shocking for some. I don't think it should. I don't think it should be. I think it makes sense. And when will it be? Okay, so we're in 25. I'll go 27.
And what tournament?
So US Open.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. So he won't be a teenager anymore. He'll be 21. Is that right? 20 or 20?
Or 20?
Yeah. Okay. Actually, no, because I think his birthday's this year. I think he'll be turning 18 this year. So I think by US Open 2027, he'll be 21.
So that's not even like a predicting him to do it super early.
Yeah, that's not outrageous. I think that's a bit late, to be honest. I would say João Fonseca, and I would say the US Open this year. There you go.
Wow. Okay.
My other one, also teenager related. Will 17-year-old Mirra Andreeva win a slam as a teenager? Got quite a few years to go.
So she has got 7. She has around like 12, 11 or 12.
12! Wow.
Opportunities. I do think so, yes.
Okay.
I do think she'll do it.
When?
Next year, Wimbledon.
Nice, good. Okay, my pick is Wimbledon this year. But only because I've been on that for a while. I mean, I've picked like 10 people to win Wimbledon this year. But I said last year I thought she'd win Wimbledon. I think she's actually really good on that surface. Have you got some questions for me?
So, by the time she's done, what do you think will be Amanda Anisimova's highest career ranking?
Oh, that's a good question. 4. I think she'll have a good year and then like win a slam. Is that bold?
I don't think 4 is bold. Actually, maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say because she's like young, but she's been here so long. So it's like, well, maybe you have shown what you can do already, or maybe it's all upsides from here. So I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised if she has Madison Keys-esque trajectory in that, like, it takes some time to deal with the pressure and the game and everything like that. But at some point, really locks in. I'll say it again and hits that spot. I don't know. The thing is, those 2,000 points from a slam can get you far. So if she could win a slam, that'll take her. What's yours?
I'll say like 6.
Yeah, it's basically the same.
Yeah. Well, 6 or 5. I guess that's not very different from 4.
Have you got another one?
Yes. Okay, so I don't remember if you did like year-end predictions for like the top 10 for 2025.
I did it twice, but I'm happy to overwrite what I said.
Okay, so my question is, who are players who you wouldn't have predicted when you actually did your ranking like a few months ago, and that now you do feel quite confident that they will be in the top 10 by year's end, and obviously who?
Noskova. I think she'll have to be injured or like start flopping, and I don't see her start flopping. I think she'd have to be injured to not squeak in there. Can I check who I've got? Because I actually do have the screenshot. I remember. Let me read out. So I did it twice. I did it once on the 18th of October, and I wrote 12 names because I thought I was being funny. I had Iga, Sabalenka, Goff, Chinwen, Jabeur, Vondrousova, Rybakina, Pegula, Muchova, Andreeva, Haddad-Maia, and Keys in the top 12. I don't know. I think I just wanted to write Madison Keys' name. And then when I did it on the 2nd of January, which I think was probably a bit more serious, I had Iga, Sabalenka, Chinwen, Goff, Muchova, Rybakina, Jabeur, Schneider, Paulini, and Keys. So I'll go with my second one because there's 10 names. And I'll say Andreeva. Andreeva, Noskova, McCartney, Kessler.
Okay.
She's the Navarro of this year.
I can see that. Okay, yeah.
What about you? Anyone that you think is... I think Towson's excellent, but I'm concerned.
Yeah. I did have Andreeva, actually. I had her on number 10, but I do have her somewhere, so I feel quite good about that now.
Yeah, I will be genuinely surprised if she doesn't make it.
Oh, yeah. No, I do feel extremely confident, but I just had a number 10. I was like, I don't know. But turns out she's very much on the way. I do think I'll want to say Towson.
You love her.
Yeah. And Towson or Noskova, I can see either. Maybe I can see both. they do feel very similar, even this year in both like results and in the way they play. It is really interesting to me.
Can I interject? Who do you think will have a better career?
Noskova.
Right. Okay. Do you think she's a better player?
I think she's at least shown herself to be less injury prone, which is quite something.
That is not an answer to the question, but fine.
Yeah, but I really do think they are like on very similar like tennis levels, Yeah, I would need to see like more of their respective best for me to feel like really strongly one way or the other.
Is that it for Dickies?
Yeah.
Cool. So, guys, I can reveal the much awaited. I'm sure people got it, and the question I asked last week, which was, who is the other tournament? What is the other tournament on the ATP that takes place in a venue that hosted the Eurovision Song Contest in the last, I think, 5 years, I said. One of them was Rotterdam. It's at the Rotterdam Ahoy. And the other one is the ATP Finals, which takes place in the Pala Alpitour in Torino. Congratulations to Tom Jones, our great mutual. Not that one, not the famous one. Other Tom Jones, our friend on Twitter who got that. Nice work there. I think very gettable. I'm sure other people at home got that as well. The question I have for you today, our starter for tennis, more difficult, less fun. I want you, and I reckon, Sam, you can have a go at this now, to name me all of the WTA players who have played in the 2020s, whose career win percentages on WTA is better than Mirra Andreeva's. The answer might shock you.
It can't be that many. It has to be like 2 or 3 of them, not more. Swiatek, I know it's the case for sure.
Thinking about all of the players, so it's not their win percentage in the 2020s, it's all players who have played in the 2020s whose career win percentages are better than Andreeva's.
Okay, so Iga's one. Serena is probably there as well. So what I'm thinking is, I'm not sure what Andreeva's career win percentage is. I think it should be around upper 70, 80 range. That's
80?
80 really feels quite a lot. It's probably around like 75, 77, something along those lines. So, yeah, Serena and Iga, I'm fully confident is the case. Serena is like around 85, and Iga is like 83 or something. So,
think about a lot of old players who have kind of played in the 2020s, so it's not just people with serious careers.
Yeah, so it's Venus.
Okay, well, I know, hold on, I'm not going to give you an answer, but you're welcome to guess.
You know what, maybe Azarenka. Thing is, Sabalenka has improved so much, but I don't know where her career percentage is now. So, but she might be, honestly. She might be around like 78 now. Yeah, I don't have...
Do you think those are the ones you've committed?
Yes.
So Serena, Venus, Iga, and Azarenka.
Yes.
Okay.
These are the ones I'm like pretty confident in.
Thinking about all the people who have appeared in the 2020s, there are some who...
Oh, did Clijsters play in the 2020s? Oh my god. Yeah, she did. Okay, so Clijsters.
Alright. Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'll reveal the answer to that. If people want a bonus, they can guess. You're not allowed to look this up, but you can guess all of the male players with the same thing. So male players who've played in the 2020s with a better career win percentage than Andreeva. Again, I don't think it's many, but when I reveal the proper answer, you'll get an idea of how extraordinary I think that she is. Because I think that she's quite extraordinary. Is that? Any other business?
We'll talk to you again probably around the halfway point for Indian Wells, something along those lines. Thank you for listening, as always. Thank you for the support. Let us know what you think about everything that has gone down, or even about the pod. Feel free to leave us reviews on Apple Podcasts, reviews on Spotify as well are available. Feel free to reach out on Twitter if you have anything you want to say about the pod. We'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.
And last but not least, I would like to thank me